Here we go, just like that, man. Freaking live. Good to see you, Jared. Good to see you guys. Lemon, not with a first today, dude. I told Jared just before we went live, I'm like, this Lemon guy's a fucking character. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming by. Jazz, good morning, sir. Jared, crypto turned green all of a sudden this morning. I'm so excited, dude. Just crypto vibes right now. Awesome.
I'm very excited too, but you have to remember that's right after a pretty red Monday.
Yeah. Well, dude, I was saying for my Inside NFTs morning update, it's just been like unrelenting, mostly bad news, like big sell-offs of Bitcoin. We had Germany selling like hundreds of Bitcoin worth of Bitcoin, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And then we had news that the U.S. government selling same, just hundreds of I think it was like $250 million worth of Bitcoin. I don't even know if they sold yet, but it's just starting. It's just news like that. It's all this stuff that, I don't know, sometimes feel like it's purposeful. It's meant to just kind of keep you feeling uncertain. The definition of FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, and that's all in my head. And like we talk, we all have this long-term vision where it barely affects us. That's why this is so nice to see, though. It's like, we'll take green every once in a while.
Well, and for those who haven't been around very long, I found crypto early in like 2016, and as you kind of get to see like almost these, if you see an emotional spike towards fear, in my opinion, it's usually time to lean in. Again, not financial advice, not telling people what to do, but I mean, honestly, we were talking, off air. I bought more Solana. When that dip came and it went below 130, I was like, just every single chart, all the sentiment, like everything just screams more. I always like to put it this way: is there downside risk? Absolutely. Is there upside potential? My long-term targets, was always 750.
Wow.
And some people think it's closer to 2000, right? Like, so even if you take the low end of that spectrum, 130 feels like a deal,
Yeah. It's my problem with crypto in general. Okay, when I try to make price predictions, man, I try to compare token to token and ecosystem to ecosystem without ever understanding a blockchain's tokenomics, which is a huge problem. Like not understanding how, what their supply is, how more are minted, like just any of it. And I fell into that trap with Tezos too. I still don't know. It makes it really hard for price predictions, but I hear very similar predictions with Solana, like damn near 1,000, if not, like you said, maybe even a couple thousand, if not. I mean, man, when we get way down the road where just everybody in the world, just everybody's touching blockchain and crypto and stuff, why not? Why not more? Let's go full bull.
I mean, again, like if you were here for the 17 into 18, I mean, the bull market was just, I remember watching my portfolio going like, you could click on like a 15-minute hour basis and just see double-digit gains. It was like there was a certain period where it was just absolutely manic. Now, full disclosure, I round tripped all of it because I just thought I was going to go to the moon. So it's not like I'm sitting on a pile of cash, but yeah, I mean, it's exciting times, and for some things, it will go further than you expect.
What's cool is that you say that you round tripped it. People need to hear that more, to be honest. I think, man, it can be super isolating thinking that you fucked up. You as in, anybody out here. You fucked up by not selling. You played it wrong. Like you're terrible at this shit. And the reality is most of us did that. Most of us, people who work in this space, people who are full-time traders, people who just dabble, doesn't all of us. I would say majority of everybody has round tripped it. And that just comes down to experience. You got to be in this space long enough to learn how these cycles actually work. And you got to understand, yeah, you got to get those reps in to learn that, when you should actually be selling. So if that is you out there, you're not alone.
I remember at Thanksgiving dinner, I was talking to my brother about Bitcoin. It was like, 15, 16K. He bought some, goes up to 20, crashes down to like, 3,600, whatever it was. And he was just like, fuck you. This Bitcoin thing's a scam. And I'm like, dude, buy more, double that, and now at 60, he's in the finance industry too. He's like, dude, I'm buying more. And I'm like, oh my God, do you remember when you were telling me like 20 was a scam? So it's fun to get people in.
Yep.
Once they realize everything in the technology, the honesty behind the blockchain. It's a really fun onboarding process. It's not for the weak of heart.
No, definitely not, dude. And a lot of people who got in last cycle, the new people, they bought in at the top of last cycle. So a lot of those people maybe are not in profits yet, or they're just about even here. So they're not getting any kind of FOMO kicking into gear. That'll happen when we hit a new all-time high, and it'll happen. It should drive. Man, those all-time highs just drive more and more people back to buying, and it's going to come. I think we all know it's just a matter of time still till it happens. I'm looking forward to it. I honestly can't freaking wait. Guys, again, I appreciate y'all here watching, joining. We had a really fun conversation yesterday about Blast, the Blast TGE. You know, it's been a weird year where we haven't had a lot of big events going on that everybody in the space was focused on. So it was really fun to have that happen. Literally went live right when the show went live. So it was like scrambling, looking for different sites. What deck should we be looking at? What exchanges is trading on? How much did you get? How do we claim? Like, I missed that energy, man. And that was the kind of energy you would have, I don't know, 5 times a day in that, peak euphoric part of the market last cycle. I missed that. It was nice to have a taste of it, regardless of how that drop went. And I still think, man, for how much FUD we saw on the timeline, I think that Blast ecosystem is going to be okay. I think they got a pretty cool product. What I'm most excited about is something that kind of is going to touch on our art conversation today, but price discovery mode. I think a lot of that is forcing us maybe back to NFTs, back to really thinking about prices and what's realistic, what's not. And a lot of that has to do with the incentives being pulled out of that Blast Blur ecosystem. So I can't wait to chat about that. But just surface level, were you involved in Blast at all? And were you watching that Blast TGE yesterday?
I was watching. Yes, I was watching with a bucket of popcorn, and I could sit there with a bucket of popcorn instead of biting my nails because I did not participate. I recognize what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and right now I'm in the process of building a few things, so I just did not have the time to make it fruitful.
Dude, speaking of you building, don't let me forget, and I'm sure you won't, but you announced your next artist, right? Correct?
I did.
Don't let me forget that. I want to make sure we give that some good attention because it's a killer artist. And I'm
stoked.
Dude, you're doing some incredible stuff. Let's hit some like macro stuff here. Of course, the biggest story. Hang on. Let's do this justice. Breaking news. Dude, unbelievable. I did not think we would see this so soon, but at this point, nothing shocking me. Nothing. We are just kind of ramping up at this, what's the word? At an exponential rate here. It's just news after news after news, and these are really big stories. These are things that would literally send the market last cycle. But here we are with VanEck announcing that they filed for the first ever Solana ETF. Again, wild. I actually thought Solana would be different. I thought it would be different because Solana was one of the few coins that was actually named by the SEC publicly in a lawsuit as a security. I'm like, okay, maybe Solana ETFs come, but I have a feeling that's down the road once we get through Bitcoin and get through Ethereum and get through whatever else needs to come, certain regulations, and then down the road comes Solana. But no, here it is right here on the horizon. Wild. Wasn't expecting it.
You know what's crazy to me is when you start to look at charts, like you start to say, like, what is going to be the narrative? My only frustration is I didn't deploy more capital yesterday. I was waiting for one little pullback to 130. And I know that's like getting selfish, but I remember last night thinking to myself in bed when I couldn't sleep, you're just getting greedy. Like what? Like it was like 135. I was like, what's the difference between 130 and 135? And I think that's like another incredible discussion. Is like, hey, again, if your thought is it's going to 600-700, like what's $3? Right?
It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter at all. And then the kind of time and time again, we learn that, because we didn't pull the trigger down here, we usually end up pulling the trigger up here. So yeah, it's just, it's learning. It's impossible to time the bottom. It is impossible to time the top. If you do it, it's luck. I don't care what anybody says. If you do time it and you're trying to, kind of nickel and dime it and make that perfect call, you'll hit them here and there, but it is pure luck. TA is going to take you so far, but it's not going to take you to the pinpoint exact spot.
Well, and my thing is like I want to be directionally correct. Like that it's so like even we were talking about Raul Paul offline, and he's like he was talking about how like even if you catch crypto like within 40% of the low, which is I feel like is kind of a manageable target. Like the returns and multiples are just like off the charts. It's an incredible space.
Gotta say it's the best. It's just the best. I could gush about it probably for hours, easily for hours, but
well, even I mean, like for me, it was like, if here's a good follow for anybody who's not like Julian Biddle. He's the basically some of the brains behind the market cycle for Real Vision at Raul Paul. It's like good old Julian, something like that on Twitter. But the dude posts a lot of charts publicly, and he was posting about Sol, how like basically every time the vol has hit like this, the volatility has hit this low, like it's spiked up. And then for me the reason is like the ETH Solana chart was amazing. It kind of showed strength in Solana relative to ETH, and then just the Solana USD was forming this like crazy wedge. So I know you say TA, but I mean I look at all this as like, man, sentiment, like the TA, the charts, like it everything felt like I was like, and again, you're kind of like, man, something big might come soon, and then you hear this, and it's like, I agree with you. If you would have given me odds that after the Ethereum ETF announcement, that within 3 months, I mean 4 months, 6 months, I would have taken a 6-month bet that it would have taken over 6 months for Solana to get ETF, and it's like, so to your point, it's moving fast, and people are starting to take a notice. There's going to be a lot of people just going like, why, right? Like, why is this happening? Why are
the timing,
big money
right?
looking at this? Yeah.
It's interesting. And to be honest, I'm really excited. I'm excited for the debate tonight, the presidential debate, because I want to hear crypto talked about. If they're going to talk about it, and I assume they will, it's turned into it's turning into maybe one of the core issues, policies these guys now have on their agenda. It's interesting. I don't think crypto has ever had this kind of stage before and this kind of attention where these guys are kind of reshaping their policy, like live in front of us about crypto. So, man, really excited to see what comes out of there. And I told people, I mean, this is very obvious stuff, but man, I'm going to be watching Pump.Fun tonight. I'm going to be watching Magic Eden. I'm watching for what meme coins come out of it, because you say the wrong thing or the right thing either way. You say something about it and it gets tokenized, and boom, all of a sudden you got a viral meme coin out of it. And man, it's not just in politics. We saw that hilarious Hawk 201 like last Friday, right? Anything can catch, but if you got, the current president, former president, uttering the word crypto, mentioning tokens that we're all obsessed with, man, huge potential tonight just on the fun side, but also going to be super informative to hear about, what it is they see for the future here.
You bring up a really great observation, is like understanding like what's said and how that's going to translate. I think that's going to equate to who has the potential attention, which is also about the larger. I think there's a really interesting play, whether it's Bowden or Trump or whatever, like the MAGA, like there's a lot of coins out there that like have a tendency to pump alongside them. If you can start to figure out some of those trends, I mean, there's some real opportunity there for some lunch money.
Dude, yeah, dude, absolutely. Major. Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate how we've seen how quickly these tokens can move and take off and grow huge market caps and wild price action. And then just as interesting, the Bitcoin ecosystem with runes, it's interesting how there's a character limit right now on them. And so I think when they first launched at the Bitcoin halving, you could have, I think it was 13 character runes. And there's a certain block number where when you reach that, you can now start etching 12 characters. And then a certain block number later, it's 11. So the next cycle that comes up, or the next character limit, it's 12. And that's when you're going to see an actual Donald J. Trump and a Joseph R. Biden. It's like these meme coins are going to hit on very specific dates. And again, pretty awesome opportunities in that.
Yeah, it's cool that you're astute enough to be able to be pointing this out to all your listeners. I mean, those are like things to be watching, like for real.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah, and I need to like sometimes take my own advice and make sure to watch too. It's hard. We're all so busy, and that's including everybody watching. But it's why honestly, it's a big reason why I started doing content. It's because I think we all have a much easier time if we do it together. We tip people off on things we're looking at and watching, and they do the same for us. It's a really, really awesome communal experience here. I'll blow through this because I just. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
It's the hive mind, like where you get a lot of people in one space and you all start throwing ideas out and you all grow together. I mean, it's what I love.
It works. And hey, we just saw how that really, really can work. Really works with GME. We saw that a few years back, and I think that was when a lot of us realized, oh my God, there's something to this. There really is something to doing it all together. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, another big story. This just dropped this morning as well, but Coinbase suing the SEC. This is regarding the Freedom of Information Act. They've requested information about 2 lawsuits. These are going back, I believe, a couple years here, but there was a lawsuit related to, I guess it wasn't technically an exchange. I guess the SEC was calling them an exchange, though. So that one had a lot to do with Ether. And the second one, man, I forget actually off the top of my head, but TLDR here, they're not getting that information back from the SEC, and ultimately the point here is the SEC is dragging their feet purposely just to frustrate them, and that is the basis of these lawsuits. Love seeing these guys push back on the SEC, who just keep stacking L's. They keep stacking L's, They're going to keep stacking L's. I think they've been in the wrong almost this entire time. They've not been looking to help. They've been looking to hurt, to cripple, to cut the head off of this movement here, and it's not going to happen. And you know that for sure now with, Trump embracing crypto like he is, Biden now really starting to, at least talking like he is. I'm not sure if we've seen any action there, but maybe to a degree we are, right? Anything that the SEC is doing now, which is them pulling back from some of this stuff, like allowing ETH ETFs now. We'll see what happens with the Solana one, but that is under Biden's watch here. So things are changing, man.
Dude, I'm encouraged, honestly. I mean, like, you can say what you want to, but Brian and Coinbase have done an amazing job of checking every single box that's necessary, right? Like doing it in a very honorable fashion per, not always, but like I hate general statements, but the fact that whereas they've been playing ball all along the way and then now they're pushing back, I think is indicative of the fact that like the tides have turned, and when you're really in the right, you dig your heels in. I think Ripple started to show that. Consensus is showing that too. I mean, to your point, there's definitely more L's at an asymmetric level than there are dubs, and that's it's cool to see Coinbase pushing back. I love it.
Yep. I'll tell you what's funny is behind the scenes hearing from certain, I guess products, platforms, whatever. There's a lot of SEC investigations under the way, a lot of them, and that are not public yet. Eventually they will be. I would assume they're all going to be. But hearing some of the SEC's takes on certain things and the way they understand blockchain, really interesting to hear. They don't understand it. They do not understand how it works. It's absolutely freaking wild to hear some of their interpretations of what goes on, and it's like instantly you recognize it as, oh, dude, weird. They actually don't understand this stuff. Like they don't. So a lot of that'll come out, I think, here over the next few years. I was going to say maybe with a change of administration, but I think it's just with Gensler being out. I think it's getting a more friendly SEC in there, and I think some of this will come out.
I think it's just the tides changing, right? I mean, people have talked about Gensler being, puppet of Warren and some other stuff. Like, I just think that at the end of the day, like, you got to listen to the people. So, it's like going back to your original point. I hope it comes up on the debate today. I hope it gets daylighted a little bit, and then as the momentum continues, it'll be good. Yep.
By the way, I don't have a lot of insight into this. I just love Tezos so much. So seeing any building going on over there, which has been a lot recently, very excited to see this. Some kind of I don't know if this is an upgrade to the current chain, if this is a new blockchain, but the road to Tezos X, something I'm looking forward to diving into on some personal time after. But love to see them building over there. And again, they've definitely turned things around community facing wise and maybe behind the scenes a bit too. There's been a lot of changes there. And I love them. I love them. My heart and soul is still over in Tezos. You know what? I was going to go over some market stuff. I kind of want to just get to some art conversations. Setting it up still. I love Beeple so much, dude. What a freaking treasure this man is. That was yesterday, dude. That literally is what yesterday looked like, felt like, all that stuff. But there's Beeples every day. He's referencing the Blast TGE yesterday, the airdrop. Jesus Christ.
When it popped up into my feed, I was like, oh shit. Like,
you got to be careful on crypto Twitter, man. Like, there's too many times I got the kids around. I'm like, oh, God damn it. But it is what it is, and it's just incredible. So, yeah, yesterday, again, TGE, we did it live yesterday. It was such a treat to just do and hang in with people while it was going on. Again, we mentioned a lot of farmers over there getting wrecked. This guy, Christian, dude, made $100,000 on the airdrop. Pretty decent amount of money, but maybe not so much if you got 50 million bucks on the line. And I just saw a lot of stories like that yesterday. A lot of people who put in either substantial amounts of money or substantial efforts, and the rewards weren't there. Look, not everybody's going to win in the way they were hoping for, and it's hard to win in the way you're hoping for when there's really not a lot of rules laid out ahead of time. You got to go into this expecting the unexpected. You really do with stuff like this. It is uncharted territory, but yeah, a lot of sentiment like that out there. And again, that's going to bring us to price discovery. Guys like this with that kind of money, they're saying right now, I don't know that I believe them, but they're saying they're done with Blur. They're saying they're done with Blast, and that is a lot of money to pull off the table. Like CB, who is the number one farmer on Blur, saying he's done. So what'll that do to prices? Actually, we'll peek at Blur because that will get us to some good art conversations. But Stats pointed out here just, maybe like 20, 30 minutes ago, in the past 15 minutes here, and at least looking at the ETH market, like I think he said like zero point 0.3 ETH of volume, or maybe even 0.03, basically nothing. Let's see if I can zoom out and see it right. But point there is, with these farmers disengaged, volume is just plummeting, like plummeting. I love it. Honestly, I love it. I want to find out where collectors are willing to get into some of these collections. What do they want? What do they want to collect, and at what price? And I think the end of that past season of Blur, the end of that farming on Blast. Yes, we're in season 2 of Blast now. We're in season 4 of Blur with different rules. It's really forcing us there to look at this stuff and price it accordingly. Very excited about this stuff. I want to find that volume he was looking at. Where would that be? Collections. Oh, here. Okay, there's a 15-minute volume chart here. Okay. And okay, what he was looking at, and of course, there's been a little buying here. Miladies are interesting, man. I'm not going to get too into that right now, but I got some thoughts and feels about Miladies. They're a different breed. But yeah, when he looked this morning, it was like 0.03. Again, I'll say maybe 0.3 to make it look a little better in a 15-minute period. Dude, I mean, everything is changing. And that brings us to art. Is it starting to change in art? Where I'm hoping so. I think you're hoping so, but also, like, to some degree, I'm just very okay letting it happen when it's going to happen organically. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily care at the moment, other than I want to see artists get paid for their work, and I'd love that to happen sooner rather than later. But that is also in price discovery mode.
Yeah, my general philosophy here is, I think directionally art prevails, and when you're oriented in that direction, it works out. I think that you're seeing. I have this new concept of value accruing to the top. I think you're starting to see like a beautiful Fidenza, a very unique Fidenza sold yesterday into Weath, and very elite funds picked it up, and they're basically like, you can never have too many Fidenzas. Beeples are still selling. X has pretty much held up his floor, and a lot of the supply is off the market as a result of Raul Paul and some others going ham on X stuff. And so to me, that's indicative of like where it's going. I think the grades will be great, and to your point, I really want people to, like, speculation is part of the game. To say I want speculation to stop is naive, but the more speculation that comes, I think it's the more eyes that will get onto art, and then you can some of them will stick around, and that's what creates a sustainable solution or ecosystem long term.
Yep, love that. Okay, well, we got quite a few art topics to hit on, and I kind of want to follow your lead as far as what you want to get to first. I definitely want to mention that POC is it POC or PAC? I think it's POC, right?
I always say POC.
You say POC. Back for just a moment, but back in a pretty cool way. So I want to touch on that just briefly. But we have the Bright Moments auction going on right now at Sotheby's. We had the Grails auctions last week. There's some conversation around Squiggles out there, and you are the man I always want to talk to when it comes to Squiggles. What do you think matters the most right up front?
Let's go to Bright Moments. I think it's a really fun story, especially with the advancement of art. Like, for those who aren't familiar, Bright Moments is a art platform, I guess you can call it, that really initiated it was bred out of COVID, and it really prioritized IRL experiences. So it started in Venice, California, and then there were 10 distinct stops. What's cool about this auction with Christie's is and then every single time you were in a city, you could mint something called a crypto citizen. There's 1,000 of them per city, 10,000 total. There's different backgrounds. I think it's like 4 or 5 backgrounds per city. So what the collection that's up is not only like you can see at the top there, it's an insane. This is from a holistic collection perspective. It represents one mint from every single artist at every single city, plus the finale, which was in Venice, Italy. So their big thing was Venice to Venice. And then also a crypto citizen with a different background. So, I mean, this is arguably one of, if not probably the most complete Bright Moments collections in existence. And it captures greats like the Incomplete Control by Tyler Hobbs, to Mapan, Emily G, one of my favorites, Thomas Lynn Peterson. I mean, it's legit probably the most complete set of stuff from Bright Moments. And for somebody who's Bright Moments, in my opinion, is pioneering the IRL component of art and in a very meaningful fashion.
I never wrapped my head around exactly what that IRL component was with Bright Moments. I always would see, the tweets and the headlines when they had an event going on, but I never quite understood it. I just recognized some of my favorite artists, period, always involved in there. So I recognize them as kind of just cream of the crop. But
Yeah, I mean, a short stint on that is what ended up happening is you'd get like for each city you would get you'd buy a mint pass. It'd have a number. The numbers would be randomly assigned to the artist, and all of a sudden the artist would reveal, and you'd be able to actually. Not everybody did it because I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's expensive to travel around the world to go mint art, right? But there was a core group of people who would travel around the world, and they would, take their mint pass, and you'd actually be so. Bright Moments would create these micro environments. So they'd rent a big studio. Each artist would have their little section, and they'd be able to design it in a fashion that was aligned with what their experience and their art would wanted to create. So some would infuse a smell, a scent into the area. Like one of my favorites was in Mexico City. I didn't go personally, but like DCA, who's Snowfro's brother, like had his art was inspired by he grew up in Mexico City, a park. So he had like a little picnic scenario, and he had the desserts that he grew up eating as a kid. So it's this really immersive experience that was analogous and aligned with what the artist wanted you to experience. So, and then you would mint the piece with the artist. So I think it's this like really, really deep connectivity in that moment.
There's nobody else in the space doing anything like that. It doesn't. I don't think that I've not heard that type of like kind of deep IRL experience. But along with digital art, there's the digital art component to it.
Yeah, I mean, all of them are Ethereum NFTs.
It's pretty wild. Damn it, dude. Missed the auction. I was really excited. I always like when I can when there's a big spaces going on with a big hot topic, I like to put it up in the background and I like to listen in like while we're doing the show. And then I thought it was gonna be such a cool treat here to watch an auction live, a Christie's auction that was going on here related to the Bright Moment stuff. And it just ended. So I want to see if we can see those prices anywhere. I'm not. Oh, well, there we go.
I mean,
so what was that auction here? The whole set?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally everything.
Oh, wow.
I mean, again, I can pick them out in there, but you have Matt Delorier. I see Snowfro's piece in there. William Apon. I mean, these are crazy, crazy artists that they've been able to put together in one collection.
Okay, so it's the whole collection of NFTs, and somebody bought the lot of it, though, right? So something like $300,000 for that.
Yeah, so it's
wow.
The math isn't exact, but each location, so the 10 locations had 10 artists. 2 locations had AI artists, so there's some AI in there.
Okay.
But so there's 100 pieces that are from the artists, but then you get, like I said, every crypto citizen, and then in Venice, Italy, that's the Incomplete Control by Tyler Hubbs.
Oh wow, I love that.
Yeah, it's really dope. They're better in person too. And then the final in Venice, they had this thing called the finale, and the artists contributed to it. So then there's 60 pieces from the finale. That's Zach Lieberman, if you go back. I mean, that right there,
yes,
which is, again, this picture doesn't do it justice, but it's incredible. I mean, just the amount of the how concentrated this set is, and it's probably very rare, if not one of a kind, to have all of this. And it would take somebody way more than 250,000 British pounds to put it together.
Dude, I never would have guessed that, Zach. I'm so used to his stuff. I mean, he plays with color and lights, right?
Yep.
I most of his stuff, at least the stuff that I looked at, and obviously I don't think I've seen everything, but like lots of lines. He's got some really cool works. I remember collecting him over on Verse. He had a nice collab over on FX Hash as well, but that looked unlike anything I'd seen of him, and I love it. Dude, this is fantastic. This one I'm just drawn to. This one you said better in person. Why do you think it would translate differently in person as opposed to online? And I agree with you with stuff I've seen in IRL versus online too.
It's one, like, it comes with a print, so like the prints are just absolutely phenomenal. I think that being able to, I mean, honestly, get off of your mobile. I mean, look at the amount of detail there, right? Like, that the amount of line work and color work is incredible, and the fact that like if you're zoomed out, like you lose a little bit of a that sense, in my opinion.
My favorite thing, so in a way that kind of speaks to why I love the digital side so much is it might just be because my eyes suck so much, but the fact that I can zoom, and I always do. I spend so much time on things that I collect or just anything I'm browsing, and I zoom and I zoom and I zoom and I scroll around and I sit with these things for so long. And it's the detail in a lot of this work, and especially generative for whatever reason, just fascinates me. But there is so much intricate work on these pieces that to me gets lost when you look at like this. Although it's a whole other perspective. It is zooming it out and taking it in all at once. But dude, I love zooming in, and I also love throwing this up in VR. I'll put these things in VR, and I mean it's the biggest display you could ever imagine. And seeing these things, I remember putting some Zan cans up in VR, and it looks like it's on a 100-foot wall. Right? It's a different thing. It's a whole different thing.
So good. It like Zancan in particular is so good. Like the amount of detail, like even if you talk to him about how long it takes him to plot some of these, because you can go on his website. And what's cool is you don't even have to own the NFT, low key. Well, actually, you do have to own the NFT, but like there's not unique one of ones. So you can like print your piece. And I don't know. I think there's just something like really, really dope about the fact that like it takes hours, if not days, to figure that out. So it's pretty dope.
Did I mix something up, by the way? Okay, we had the Bright Moments auction. Is that the post-war to present Christie's auction that I was trying to get on live, or are those two separate things? I'm like
I do
suddenly
not know.
really okay. Maybe it's the same thing. I initially thought they were two totally separate things, but yeah, no, they are separate. They are. So separately, we had this Christie's auction going on now. That ended. Anyway, now I don't even know where the hell that came from. All I know is art seems to be, man. Okay, I'll say this. Maybe it doesn't feel like it's thriving in this space just right at this moment, right? It just doesn't. We're not seeing like these mints popping off left and right, and narrative wise, you don't have people full throttle back in art yet. But seeing action like this makes me think it's right on the cusp, like right on, and it's why we were talking about it over the past few weeks. Like, is art back? I keep feeling like it's right under the surface. It's right here, and people are. And okay, also something I think we said last week before. There's something so cold and boring about fungible tokens. As fun as they are, man, it is really nice to be able to slow down and appreciate art. And I just am feeling maybe that from the broader community. They're ready to slow down and invest some time into stuff that's a little more real. And I think all of that is what I'm feeling under the surface here.
Yeah,
I really hope it's coming back.
I mean, I've started getting a couple people reach out to me about buying squiggles and helping advise them. And just for the record, I do it all for free. I don't charge anything. I just love squiggles and onboarding new people, so I do it. But so I've been getting that's a data point for me. But more than that, I think once people have settled down, they've made their money from farming or meme coins. I think there is a rotation into art specifically because it's a sign of their Web3 wealth. And I think that not only is it a sign of their Web3 wealth, it's got that like social, that social highlighting like their success. But more than that, I think the thing I love about art is it's emotional. It makes you happy. It gets you excited. Like you feel connected to it. Like whether you're into like meme style art, like Die with the Most Likes, or historical stuff like Squiggles and X, like there's so many narratives that you can weave into it and feel connected to the art. So.
Okay, gotta ask, what's your favorite style? I don't know if I've asked you that before.
Generative art is by far my favorite. It's kind of like my first love, right? Like when it comes to like Web3, like I went deep down the rabbit hole of like metadata trait. We've talked about it, like getting into algos before they were public and understanding what was rare. And it's part of the reason why I love speculation and flippers is because if everybody minted pieces and I'm not able to buy them because they're residing in like these long-term wallets, I'd be depressed. Actually, all the stuff I have, I never minted, right? So I actually like the fact, well, I'm sure there's stuff I minted. I meant like stuff in my wallet, like isometros, from Rich and Rick that I minted, but
you do a lot of time on secondary and really taking your time and picking out.
I mean, like my PFP on Twitter or X, I stalked for 8 months, right? Like I like literally created bots to figure out the listings of it. I put in WETH bids. the buyer never bought, and then I bought it within 5 minutes of it listing, right? Like I wouldn't have had that opportunity if somebody held for the long term. So I think that there's it's like my other favorite piece is I have a Guide 1 anti-cyclone, and it just happened to mint to somebody that I knew. We've negotiated, and
Man, that's
it's
how you know
incredible.
there's real collectors. Like guys, you cannot forget that. This is stuff you have to hear. You have to hear that there are real collectors out there, not just speculators, real collectors, guys who, like Jared said, spent 18 months tracking a piece. That's it. That's all you have to know is there's people out there just like that, just like Punk 6529, right? Who is I hope I got the numbers right, but who bought the goose, a real collector who's spending $5 to $6 million on a piece. This stuff is very real, and it will cycle back in. Again, I'll go back to I don't necessarily care if it does. I hope it does. I don't care if it does. I'm kind of here in a big way for the art. I just love what's actually happening here. I love being a part of it, getting to look at it, getting to finally, for the first time in my life, collect it. And it's a very real thing happening. So I just want to make sure to point that out so people don't forget. This is you sent me this link, and this was awesome. And it's just funny. Again, whenever you send me these things, I'm like, oh, I did hear that. Like you put out actually, was this with you, or I know it was MLAU's interview, but is that something you do with him too, or no?
No. It wasn't my interview, but I love Bat Soup. He's a good dude. And just a very thoughtful individual. I think he's part of 6529's team. So he's obviously very intelligent to be a part of that. So I thought it was a really interesting take, right? Meaning they talked about NFTs and it being way more fun. And I think that that's the truth, right? Instead of chasing, meme coins, hoping to get out before the devs dump on you and 2, 5, 20x, like there's something brilliant about like just really great art and being able to, enjoy it.
Yep. And just another example, we're not alone in feeling like something is coming back. Like, again, I don't know if you guys watch and feel that too, that there is something just bubbling up there. I'm very excited about it. But yeah, I mean, 787 here, this guy's fucking hilarious. I don't know if you follow him. I don't know if you guys watch and follow him. He's hilarious. Like, I think every day he does these kind of shit posty recaps of the market. And they're pretty freaking great, guys. But anyway, great takes from him. But again, I feel like something is coming back. Whether it's NFTs, like PFP's collectible shit, or it's art too, it's something's coming back. I'm very excited for it. Okay, I'm going to put you on the hot seat here. Just a little bit. Hope you don't mind.
Please.
When there's squiggle talk, again, you're the guy.
I'm one of.
Okay, that's fair. You're one of them. You're my guy. Can I put it that way?
Fair. I'm your guy.
You're my guy. Talk to me about this squiggle sale, because this squiggle sale, I mean, man, it's a big sale. This is a pretty darn rare squiggle. Do I have that right?
We'll get into it, but yes.
Okay. I don't know. To me, again, 16 ETH is what this sold for at Sotheby's. A lot of money to me, but this is probably under what this, well, I would say almost definitely under what this would have been worth a year or two ago. So what is the story with this squiggle? And actually, I'd love to, I'm going to pull it up while you share a little about it. But it was a big auction, well, there you see it right there. I just caught that.
There's some really great auction pieces that came up. The squiggle specifically is something that's very interesting to me, and it's something I was watching very closely. For reference, the squiggle floor is roughly 4 ETH. So in theory, selling for 4x the floor, you would think like very good sale. I think that this sold to the Starry Night fund for like 170 ETH. So that's why I think there's a lot of, and why Beanie's focused on this about it being 90% down or whatever it was, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that, meaning its designation is full spectrum. So there's two type of spectrums that show up in the metadata of perfect spectrum. So again, if I nerd out way too much, just please stop me. There's 256.
Dude, I would love for you to nerd out. Please.
Right. There's 256 visible colors in the Chromie squiggle spectrum. Sometimes you sequence with less, sometimes you sequence with more. I won't get into the nuances, but a perfect spectrum, of which is only like, I think 26, cycles every single color just once. And then a full spectrum is within 1% of full. So and there's like 40 something of those. And what's really intriguing is, so it's, to the naked eye, you would argue it is nearly perfect. So it's a little bit of a more of like the connoisseur. If you're into squiggles, it's more of the connoisseurs type of thing, because it's not as obvious as like a hyper squiggle or a fuzzy or a rib, like, or bold, right? Like these are all pretty obvious. So it's a little bit more nuanced. The reason why I thought this was really interesting is not because it got 16 ETH sale, but about a year ago, a very big anon named Yamamoto came out and basically pointed out that the squiggle algorithm was in fact incorrect, and that the amount, the start and ending color, because that's one of the data points in the metadata that dictates this, the starting and ending colors are actually in fact incorrect. And so he came out with something that was called a mathematical perfect and a mathematical full. And when you look at it visually, the mathematicals actually look perfect. And so I think that you have this divide of what is I'll call this a metadata full or perfect, and then Yamamoto's mathematical full and perfect. And so there's this whole thing about the community, like the perfect spectrums and stuff were never in the metadata. It's such a retroactive trait where a gentleman named von Mises, who was a big squiggle collector, observed this. The metadata was updated to do this, so it's kind of like that age-old community-derived trait. Anyways, all that to be said, there's a big divide between what's in the metadata and what's mathematically correct per the algo, but not represented accurately. So my personal take on this is, I think this is all part of the squiggle story. And like Beanie is in fact correct. Like on the surface, that's down 90%. There's a little bit of drama behind it, down 90% in ETH terms, right? There's a little bit of drama behind it as far as like which one is correct. But I also think it's part of the lure where, you know, the community derived a trait, somebody else who is like a non like identified something in the algo. And what's really interesting is, I won't say who, but like big collectors are collecting around the mathematical thing. And I think that it's indicative of two things, in my opinion. One, validation of it, but two, potentially hedging, right? Like they're hedging for the 10, 20 years out when those things are sitting in a museum. Which one's going to be recognized? The mathematical full, or the metadata full? And I think that that's a really interesting story that I look forward to playing out over, in my estimation, it's a decade.
I love that stuff. So the community is not settled on which is the Bible, which is the authority on the metadata, or is it leaning
No.
one way or another?
No, I mean, it depends who you ask, right? Like Snow came out and said, I'm not going to change the metadata. The metadata is the metadata. And look, unsubstantiated, but my personal opinion is there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money to get fulls and perfects, probably don't want to upset them because they're very deep pockets.
Like kind of keep it as is, the original iteration of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's his official position. I think if you ask a collector, like, and I think if you go to squiggledata.com, like that is the official Yamamoto site. Okay. So there's some search for a true perfect, right? I mean, kind of shots fired and some other stuff, but he goes into this and it's a really, really intriguing, I mean, whoever this is ungodly talented, because they went in to the algo, took a bunch of data points, and they go through their entire story about how they discovered all this stuff. But do perfect.
Oh, there should only show. Oh, okay.
So according to him, there's only one perfect, right? But if you go to full, then I think there's like 20 or something.
I see.
But what's really intriguing is, and another like curveball is, the metadata full spectrums are only the normal squiggles. But in Yamamoto's, there's a couple ribbed and a couple fuzzies that fall into it. I, full disclosure, have one of the full spectrum mathematical fuzzies purely by default. Like my I just stared at these things for so long. I was staring at them and I'm like, this looks like it's a, you know, it was rare because fuzzies, I won't get into it, but it's rare to have like one spectrum of color in a fuzzy. I was like, man, this looks like it has the full. Yeah, that one's not mine.
That one's not. So this is the one they have listed as the, what is it, perfect?
Yeah. That's the mathematical perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is a fuzzy as well.
Yeah. But and
Dude,
that's
I
what's
know
really
people who
intriguing.
aren't into Gen Art think this is crazy talk, but it's like without me knowing this collection intimately and knowing the traits, I speak that language and I so get it, man. I so get it. I love that stuff.
Yeah, so it's just this like really. So I think that that's to come full circle. I think that's part of the reason why the auction appears to be so low. Is that there's some confusion around from the community what is truly a full spectrum.
And so like previous sale or whenever it was purchased is when it was like it was considered a full spectrum and that has changed now with the new metadata.
It's still no. There's the metadata did not get refreshed, so
Okay.
it's still the old metadata. Or let me say the original metadata. The metadata was never corrected per this Yamamoto stuff. So like the metadata still reads a full spectrum.
But because there's another set of metadata that is not officially from Snowfro, right? But a collector's because that one does maybe now doesn't list it as a full spectrum. Is that what that is now?
Correct. So
Okay.
when you're on that squiggledata.com or whatever it was, and you saw that one that was listed as perfect,
3830.
that there's
Let me pull it up.
nowhere in the metadata that shows that, right? But you have to have like, and again, that's where. But if you look at it, it looks like every single color of the rainbow is in fact represented there. You can see it starts on
Interesting.
green, it ends in green, but on the other ones, like visually, there's a lot of reasons that like people described it, but um,
Is there a way
yeah,
to explain what it is missing mathematically here that makes it not full spectrum? Like what color, where would that be? Do you know?
if you listen to the essentially what happened is the metadata reporter was off by like a couple digits, and the Yamamoto guy who's got this like cheeky AI voice, so you don't actually know who it is, which
Oh,
I have
funny.
to like kind of snicker to myself, right? And I think it's like British, so it's just like this like little posh like named Yamamoto British voice. I'm like, come on, you're just effing with everybody, but it's also why I love Web3. But he goes into like there's two particular traits that were off by like one or two digits. I think it was like color spread uh and segment. Oh, the segments was a big one. And segments basically indicates how many bends are in there.
Okay.
So like the segment count was off, and that was one of the main drivers of how many in the color hue calculation. It's one of the things that threw it off.
Man, I like imperfections. If I were a collector, I mean, even without, I can have an opinion. I like the idea of keeping the original metadata as as the Bible. I know collectors can form their own little communities around what they value the most, and that's kind of one of the beautiful thing about decentralized stuff. But yeah, I always like the first iteration. It's why I have a V1 Punk, kind of a similarish thing. I like the imperfections. To me, I just like what was the first real attempt. What was, or not even attempt. I don't want to call the squiggle an attempt. You know what I mean? But
No, no,
I like the original as is, and I wouldn't even consider it necessarily a flaw. It's just the way it came out.
yeah, and like it goes back, and then and Snow said this right, like it was the artist's intent. Like this is what it was. This is what it was uploaded as, and he wants to honor that. And I think that there's something very respectable about it. I also think, I mean, I was posting this in the Collectors Corner Discord the other day. I think that there's a world in which both exist because it's part of the Squiggle story. And I think Snow is going to be a generational talent. Snowfro, Eric Calderon, for those who I'm just
Yep.
like abridging the creator of the Squiggle. I think he's a generational talent when it comes to art. Because the thing is, like, it's a trifecta for him, right? He's literally got one of the best, if not the best, NFT collections out there. I mean, he's a collector first. Like he has every type of CryptoPunk except for an alien, right? Like
That's so wild. I remember you
right,
told it a couple weeks ago. I had no idea.
he claimed something like 16 to 21 like zombies. He was there day one, right? Like
Insane.
he's got really cool stories about this, and he's got a full set of autoglyphs. Like he was, and like right now it's like, oh yeah, that's 15, 16 million. But at the time, he was supporting good people and good processes. It wasn't about like, oh, I'm gonna make millions of dollars. He's an artist, and then he's also the founder of Art Blocks. So he's like legit an entrepreneur, elite collector, and elite artist, and that I think that matters.
Yeah. If I were, it's not like I'm choosing what's the most historic, but Chromie Squiggle's there. To me, it is. To me, it's one of the most iconic pieces in this space. Period. It is, the CryptoPunk of art, and to me, they're very similar. Like I look at CryptoPunks as art. It's something that people can wrap their head around what it is about this space we appreciate. And Squiggle to me is that for generative art. It's one of those things that helps you understand it. It also helps you understand, maybe the financial side too, why people value these things certain ways. And it's in a really easy to digest way because it's so hard to understand at first that when you finally understand it with Chromie Squiggles, everything else unlocks.
Well, I equate it to Jackson Pollock, right? And for those not familiar with Jackson Pollock, it's just he's a famous painter who does splatter paint, right? Like literally just threw paint at a wall. And everybody looks at it and goes, I could do that, right? And the reality is
that's what people say, right?
It's the first time I saw it too. And I think with the squiggle, it's the same way. It's like, oh, I could do that. It's just a squiggly rainbow. But then you start to understand the technique and the details and all that behind it. And it, obviously I'm a fanboy, full disclosure, but the reality is like it's oddly relatable and simple enough to engage you, but complex enough that if you want to peel back layers of the onion, it gets like really crazy. Like with Pollock, like I love Pollock, but his shit sells for like $170 million now, like his one of ones, right? Like this is big money. And it's like people get into like, oh, there's still ash in the paint from when he was smoking and doing this. And there's so pictures. Cool. Yeah. And I think that again, I go back to the squiggle. This is part of the journey. Like to your point, imperfections is part of the story. And I think that matters in a long term. And like, we can sit here and, spend 30 minutes talking about something that's just like a squiggly rainbow for that reason,
The fact that it is a common thing people say, I could do that. It's really funny. That's like usually a go-to thing, which is okay. I've said that. I literally said that when I started looking at art and trying to wrap my head around it. But part of the whole, understanding of it is the fact that it still takes somebody to actually do it. Part of the piece itself is the moment it's capturing, right? It's the artist actually doing the thing and actually putting it out there into the world, and then the response to the piece. It's kind of sometimes I think art is more than just the piece itself. It is the entire experience, inception, creation, now the sale. The sale is part of the art too, the way that things are sold. Are you doing a Dutch auction? However it's done, however you're getting collectors into the process, whitelist, giveaway, whatever it is. To me, that is all part of the experience, and to me, that is all ultimately represented in the collection's price. And really, it's lore. It's bigger than just the output.
Yeah, there's a big discussion in one of the discords about this, and somebody was like, "Oh, you like I considered buying it. I was gonna go in halves with somebody to acquire it
on this."
Yeah, on the full spectrum, because
wow.
Like I think it's part of the journey, right? Like, and then like their Sotheby's account like rugged them and they couldn't log in, so
no.
like, oh, whatever. But I think that's the beauty of it is like. It's a story, and as the more we talk about it and the more it propagates, I think the more it becomes like common knowledge. And I think that's the beauty of art is like it's meant to be discussed, it's meant to be debated, it's meant to be like, personally, I'd actually be on the opposite end of the spectrum. I love the story, but like I think the mathematical is visually captures the original intent, even though it's not there. And I think that like, and we could sit here and over drinks and debate till we're blue in the face, and the reality is that at the end of the day, the market's going to speak, right?
Yeah, it always does. What do you know about these, by the way? This is totally random. I just remembered these were on my radar. I might have minted one, and there's just a couple hours to go, so I wanted to throw it up here real quick.
I do not know anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I can share what I know. But, geez, but I don't know how to even say his name. It's the artist. Who's the artist? Micah Johnson? I think it's Micah Johnson behind the Accutars, right? That whole Accu world. Anyway, cool ass art, really cool artist, honestly. But released with Topps, these really cool little collectible trading cards. I'll drop a link to it again on base, dirt cheap, awesome artist. Somebody I've supported over the years and will continue to. But there's just like 2 hours to go on these, so I'm going to drop these out there. Man, I remember too his mint. I don't want to bring back those bad memories for everybody if you minted too, but do you remember the story at all with the Accutar?
I don't.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. Anyway, it was a big mint. We're talking one of those, many, many millions of dollars. I think there was an error in the contract where I think it was like $30 million that was paid on the mint, and it was all locked where nobody could access it. It was something crazy like that. Anybody remember that story? Do you guys remember the details of that? I think I'm right about the $30-ish million.
So is it still locked?
Yes. Yeah, those funds are gone for good. like locked in the contract. Nobody can access them. And it was such a huge hit because I knew he'd put his everything. This was something he'd been working on for years and years and years, right? It was very personal, and it just, oh boy, that was one
Wow.
of those moments back in the day, right?
Wow.
I'm seeing
That's
too if he's
incredible.
got anything on his timeline. I'm sure he doesn't want to remember that.
Yeah.
Um,
For these, are there like different levels of rarity? If they're doing with like tops, they have like different backgrounds, different like one of ones, that sort of thing.
so I think there's 3 iterate. Well, there we go. Yeah. Oh, dude, maybe there are. I thought there was just 3 iterations, and I actually thought it was an open edition. But if there's not rarity, there's at least some like randomness to it. I didn't freaking realize. Damn. Well, probably gonna grab a few more just cause. But yeah, absolutely. I totally thought these were. It's not a ton of random. Well, I'd have to dig in a little more. I really thought these were just like an open edition. Maybe it is. Maybe I need to look. Maybe it is 3 open editions, and still they're individually numbered. That could be because they do look pretty darn similar.
Yeah, I'm seeing one with like a white background too. So maybe there's like a fourth like rare variation
Yeah.
of
Oh,
some sort.
interesting.
Thought I saw it. Maybe it was just loading.
No, let me scroll up. That'd be cool if there was. Dude, I just like randomness. That'd be cool if there's a little, random one you can proc in here. But yeah, really cool collection. Oh, there it is.
Right there. Yeah.
What's the deal with that? Okay. Yeah, interesting. Well, I got 3 hours to dig in, so I'm definitely going to check this out a little more. But yeah, you got almost 3 hours on the dot for this. If anyone's interested, again, great artist, great collection. It looks like so. What do we want to end on? I think I kind of want to end on. Well, do you have anything going on in your world? Anything going on in the art world?
I will say on 8/8, Delta Sauce, who's an amazing AI artist, is going to release on 8nap art. There's going to be some allow list and public mint spots. So please, if you are at all interested in minting, reach out to me. I always say I have a few discretionary spots, so I try to hook people up where I can. But overall, Delta's a really great artist. This one, I don't want to give away the name of the project quite yet, but it's going to be a long form. We're still deciding the final outputs, but absolutely amazing theme. I teased it out. I'll give it a little bit out here. Delta's going to have some like really cool. The reason why I was like digging into this like collectible that you just brought up is we've kind of mirrored some fun traits around collectibles. So we're going to have some that come with prints, but then we're going to have some really unique dynamics like we're playing into kind of like what's in the ecosystem, like a gold ape or a gold something, and there will be some like long-term utility associated with those. So they're going to be rare,
Wow.
and there's going to be like artist utility. I'll just leave it at that. And so that sort of thing is like where we really want to tease out. It's going to be very progressive. We're going to like have a lot of fun with it, and then just like if you're familiar with his project Views, which was released on Braindrops, absolutely
Cool.
amazing project that I became enamored with, and it's a progression kind of on that theme and leaning into nostalgia. So really stoked on this one. It's an incredible. He's incredible. He's an incredible talent, and his brain thinks in these like really fun ways. So I don't know. I'm excited to start sharing some of this.
I love that, dude. I've really just grown to learn over the past few years here now. Artists they're just different. They think different. They see the world different, and it's cool getting to see it through their perspective, through their art, and it is very real. They definitely have a different lens. They kind of see everything through, which I love. What do you know his process? Like, what is he? An AI artist? Is he
AI
like,
for sure?
AI?
It's
Okay.
AI. I don't know the exact tools, but I know he does he does a bunch of prompts. I mean, he'll send me like the outputs from different prompts, and we'll discuss them. Like that's inspired by Great Gatsby. I mean, for those that piece, it's funny you bring this up because I chased that one for a long time and never
Really?
got it. But like, he pulls inspiration from many different places, and it's been really fun to just get inside his brain and understand where it goes. And he's gonna try to capture specific moments, and like that one is a tribute to Red Rum,
I
who's
was going to
another
ask if that
AI.
was because he's
Yep.
got a very recognizable style. Red Rum does, and that very much looks like his work.
And I picked up off the the secondary Delta Sauce's views. That's a tribute to Grant Yoon, right? So
Oh,
I think
is
there's
it in this collection? Let me see if I can pick that out.
yeah, I'll get you the exact number. Let me pull up my collection.
Okay, I want to see if I can do it from memory or from eye.
Well, it's 500, so you might be
Oh
scrolling for a
shit! Well,
while.
never mind. Okay, I'll have to get really lucky real quick, but otherwise,
Yeah.
Grant
But,
Yoon is one of those such a distinct style.
and it pops like once you know it, and I think that's what's really fun is like discovering this discovering like just the amount of attention he put into it. It's number 211, if that helps you.
It does. Actually, maybe not with.
But
211.
yeah, so Delta's amazing. I'm really, in my opinion, he's been able to take on the foundation of views on a long form cohesive collection and build upon it in this next iteration and introducing new levels of collectability. So my hope is to help him onboard new collectors. So, if you do have any interest at all, like please reach out to me. I'd love to have a discussion and talk about how we can, potentially onboard more people into his ecosystem.
And when will we get details on the collection, like release date, some previews, all that good stuff?
It will release on 8/8, so that's August 8th. So it's coming up. That's a Thursday. Ironically, 8/8's the 1-year anniversary of 8NAP art. 8 happens to be Delta's favorite number. So it had a lot of synergy there when we started going through all of it.
You guys are young. I didn't realize that young, but birthday right around the corner. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Dude, appreciate you. I always say it. And yeah, thank you so much for coming, dude. Like, treat to have you on here. Treat to get to talk about art. And couldn't think
Thank
of a
you
better
for letting
person
me
to be
rant
chatting
about
with.
squiggles. I probably had bored half your audience, but I think it's an important discussion when you talk about like the story, the legacy, and the thing I will end on this note is one of the things I loved about Snow in this thing is he leaned into like the art is the art. My intent was my intent. And I think you have to take a step back, whether you agree with it or not, and honor the fact that like this is what he was thinking and this is how it came out. And there's something brilliant about that story. I mean, I literally can imagine the MoMA or the LACMA having, I'll call a metadata full and a mathematical full side by side and stoking a conversation because
That's awesome.
It's part of the journey, it's part of the story. It's part of the reason why I was interested in splitting that one is because like I lucked out and got a mathematical full, right? So it's part of the journey. And as a squiggle connoisseur and enthusiast, like I want to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
I want to be able to be a historian and a steward of propagating that and shedding light on the fact that like it's not either or. To me, it's an and. Like
I
both
love
are
that you
part of
always say
story.
that too. I think more people need to adopt that too. The and. You did or did not end up getting a piece of that mathematical one? No.
Oh, I own a mathematical. But
so the other one,
the metadata full that was in Sotheby's, I did not.
Got it. Hey, next time, right?
I know. I don't know if I'll ever see one that cheap, but it is what it is.
Fingers crossed for you, man. Again, thank you, dude. Appreciate you coming. Guys, I'll see you later on the afternoon show. Henry will not be there today. His daughter is graduating high school, which is such a mind fuck. I can't even believe it. But Joe and I will be there. We'll get pretty D-Jenny, I think. But anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. See you tomorrow.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.